Hi there, I'm Laura, and along with my partner Thibaut and a team of inquisitive teens, we produce this series that answers the questions about what teenagers are really all about. Well, they actually produce it, and edit it, and write it, and host it. They do it all. It's pretty amazing. So given the resources, the guidance, and the reins, let's see what they come up with. You in? Okay, this week the team heads over to the Seagrave Memorial Observatory in North Scituate, Rhode Island, where they look at the moon and stars like they never have before.
Hi, it's Haley, and you're watching Teenage Critic. And today we're here at the Seagrave Memorial Observatory. And I'm speaking with
Steve Syok.
So can you tell us a little bit about what an observatory is?
An observatory is a building that houses a telescope, and it allows us to look at the stars. Or we can also photograph the stars.
How long have you been here?
42 years.
How big is the telescope?
We have 4 different telescopes. The oldest telescope that we have is an 8-inch refractor. That means that the main lens is 8 inches in diameter, and it's about 13 feet long. We have 3 other telescopes that have mirrors instead of lenses. We have 2 12-inch telescopes and 1 16-inch telescope. They're in what are called roll-off roof observatories because the whole roof rolls right off the building. The main observatory has a dome, and the dome rotates on 15 shot puts, and it goes around like a big ball bearing.
And can people just come in and show up and watch the moon or the stars?
We're open on Saturday nights. We're open when it's clear, because if it's cloudy, we can't see through the clouds, or if it's raining, we can't see through the raindrops. We're open on Saturday nights, and we're open all year long, except if there's snowpack on the grounds, because we don't plow the driveway.
And do people pay to watch the moon?
We are a nonprofit organization, and we accept donations. Donations are very, very nice because we need to run this observatory, but we do not charge a fee.
How did you get one of the telescopes?
The telescope was originally owned, the 8-inch refractor was originally owned by Mr. Seagrave. That's why we call this Seagrave Observatory. And he was lucky enough to get the telescope when he was 16 years old. His father bought it for him. And he originally had it in Providence on Benefit Street near Brown University. He kept it there until 1912, and he moved it out here in 1914. He died in 1934, and we bought the property from his estate, and we've owned it as a society, that is Skyscrapers Incorporated, have owned it ever since 1936. And it's a very special telescope because there are very few refractors of this size from that far ago. I'm only aware of 2 others, one in California and one in Ohio, that are of the same size and same vintage.
And how much does this particular telescope weigh?
I don't know.
She stumped you.
A few thousand pounds.
And do you ever move it at times?
Absolutely not, no. It is aimed at the North Pole, and if we were to move it, we would destroy its alignment, and therefore we couldn't track the sky.
Do you have any classes for kids who want to learn more about this?
We don't have any structured classes, although we do help Scouts if they have merit badge work. We help the Boy Scouts, the Cub Scouts, and the Girl Scouts. Okay, so the observatory dome has to be rotated because there's only a small slit that allows us to look outside the dome. It protects the telescope from the weather, and just by opening the slit we can point to any point in the sky so that we can look at any objects that we want to look at. The dome is sitting on 15 16-pound shot puts, and the shot puts are contained if you slew the camera to just above the red light, you see a black piece of pipe.
No.
This right here,
Right there?
that piece of pipe.
That piece of
Oh, I
pipe
see it.
ties the various pieces of, and show them the 5-inch pipe.
5-inch,
Yeah, that one.
this one here.
No, that's 1.5 inch.
All right, this is the 5-inch.
That's a 5-inch
Yeah,
pipe. So
that's-
inside that piece of pipe is a 16-pound shot put. And so the dome acts like a great big ball bearing. And when I turned the ship's wheel, which was pulled out of Boston Harbor,
Check this out. It's gonna move. Look.
don't look, it's very, very easy. So the telescope has to compensate for the Earth's rotation. Remember, we are traveling at 1,000 miles per hour here standing on the surface of the Earth. And if we were looking at something in the sky, it would drift out of the eyepiece of the telescope within 15 seconds or so. So we trick the telescope into thinking that it's looking at the same place in the sky for a very long period of time. We use what's called an equatorial mount. This axis of the telescope is aimed directly at the North Pole. It's not aimed at the North Star, it's aimed at the North Pole. The star is about 1 degree removed from the North Pole. And so by rotating the telescope about this one axis in the direction opposite to the way the Earth rotates, we trick the telescope into thinking that we're looking for a long period of time at the same object. The way we do that here is through a weight drive system, and it's very much like a grandfather's clock. This weight falls down, this weight comes up, it rotates these gears, and it moves this octa towards the east, so the telescope moves towards the west, which is the direction that the stars are going in. In order to make it go at exactly the right speed, we have what's called a flywheel governor. This works very much like a skater on the ice. When a skater pulls her hands in and she's spinning, she goes faster. When she puts her arms out, she goes slower. And so what this governor does is as it speeds up, those two weights tend to move out. But then they engage this little hook and that slows it down. So that keeps it going at exactly the right rate of speed, which is once every 24 hours and 4 minutes, which is the speed of the stars. The stars don't go at the same speed as the sun. In order to keep this going, we have to turn this crank, and that allows us to raise this weight. And it will last about 20 minutes between the times that we have to raise the weight.
You'll get a chance to move it, because
I could see this. Watch.
there's no electricity for this thing, or it's moved by this little captain's wheel here. Yeah.
Look, that is the surface of the moon. Are you hearing me? Wait, there it is right there. You see it? Wow, that's amazing.
Oh, sure.
Why is it better to look at a half moon than a full moon?
Okay, well, let's talk a little bit about next Saturday night. The moon is not going to be full. It's going to be at what's called a gibbous waxing phase. So it'll be a little more than half, but not quite full. And that's important because you want the moon to have shadows cast from all the craters, all the mountains, and all the mare. And that allows us to see things in much more detail. It's really spectacular when you're looking at, say, a crater on the moon, and you can see just the peak of the mountain in the center of that crater illuminated by the sunlight.
Going back to the past, during the time of, I'm going to get back to history a little bit. During the time of Galileo,
All right?
compared today, how have the improvements of telescopes changed today, and how has it affected us as people today?
So Galileo actually built the first astronomical telescopes. They were very, very small. They were only about 2 inches in diameter, similar in size to like a pair of binoculars that you would have today. And he was the first person to observe the craters on the moon. He was the first person to observe the rings of Saturn, and the first person to see the 4 moons that went around Jupiter. The fact that 4 moons went around Jupiter was very, very significant back in the 1600s because there was a huge debate going on whether or not the Earth was in the center of the universe. And by having 4 moons going around Jupiter, what you basically showed was that everything doesn't go around the Earth. It was through the work of Kepler, through the work of Copernicus, and through the work of Galileo that we got a general idea of how the solar system is put together. Today, to compare the telescopes of the 1600s to the telescopes today is absolutely impossible to compare the difference. Basically because we have instruments both on the ground and in space. We're able to see incredible detail. And we're able to also measure light not only in the visible wavelengths, but also going through the radio waves and going through the infrared, ultraviolet, X-rays. We have X-rays are shielded by the Earth's atmosphere. That's why we live here, because all of the X-rays coming down from the sun or from other objects would kill us. They would kill life as we know it. But because we have an atmosphere, it shields us from those X-rays.
What is the oldest telescope now? You know, like in the world, where is the oldest telescope?
The oldest, well, it's not even operating anymore, unfortunately. But the oldest mounted refractor is at Harvard College Observatory.
Really?
It was delivered in 1847, so only about 40 years before Frank bought his telescope. And it's a 15-inch refractor. It was fabricated in Germany and it was brought to the United States. And it saw first light in, I think, May of 1847.
And in the main telescope here, the one that was 136 years old, how many planets have you seen? Do you just see the moon and stars, or do you see other planets?
We can see every planet except for Pluto in that telescope. And the funny thing about Pluto is that it has a very elliptical orbit. And back in the when was the blizzard? 78. Back in 1976, Pluto was at what we call its perihelion passage. It was as close to the sun as it ever gets. And at that time, we could see Pluto through this telescope. And several of us were able to do that.
So thank you for talking to us.
Well, thank you very much, Haley.
And you guys stay tuned for what's coming up next.
And you guys stay in tune for what's coming up next.
This next segment is by a couple of YouTubers called the Sorry Girls. They've got some great decorate your locker ideas, and they make awesome gifts as well. Check it out.
Hi guys! Today we are doing a back to school video. I know it's very important and dear to your hearts, so we are bringing it to to you. You guys asked for some locker decoration inspiration, so we put our heads together and thought of some awesome things that you could make to put in your locker to make it look way cuter. So this first one is like a pen or possibly chalk holder. We used some old tins. We found this tea one from a thrift store, and this Burt's Bees ones is from when we bought some chapstick. Yeah, seriously, just hit up your local Value Village Goodwill for old tins. We went to Michael's and grabbed some pretty good quality magnet strips with a sticky back, and then we just cut them to the right size and stuck them on. Can't really get much easier than that. And then we just placed them inside of our locker and put some pens and chalk inside them. So the next DIY that we did are these super duper cute DIY clothes pegs is the word you're looking for, Becky. So we got an entire bag of clothes pegs from Dollarama for like $1.25 for an entire bag of 60 of them, I think. Don't need that many. No. Pretty much what we did is we just grabbed some paint and just went creative with it and painted different designs on these clothes pegs. To get this one chevron-esque arrow pattern, we just cut arrows, the shape of arrows, out of masking tape and laid it on and then painted over top. And then peeled off the tape when you're done. And voila! And then we did some like ombre, like fading watercolor looks using watercolors. And that's pretty much our designs. And then when they're done drying, you can go back to your magnetic strip, sticky strip, tape, magnets, and cut it. We had to cut this in half because it was a little bit too thick. And then we just laid those on the back of our clothes pegs. Yeah, when you have a metal locker, magnets are your best friend. Put them on everything. Yeah, and you can use this to hold your schedule. A schedule is something that you definitely need in your locker because even though you do the same thing like every other day, you always forget. I did, all the time. So we got this chalkboard vinyl paper from Walmart, and it was only like $6, and we thought that we could use this for the inside of the locker as well as many other projects in the future. Sticky vinyl is the best because you can totally redo your locker, but it comes off and you won't leave marks. Because I remember we got in big trouble if we left marks on our lockers at the end of the year. Janitor not be happy with you. I had Sharpie in mine. Becky! I should have watched this DIY back then. Now this little gem is something that would look good on your refrigerator, in your dorm, or in your locker. This is the easiest thing to do. Pretty much it's just taking like your original like childhood magnet letters, alphabet letters. We all had these. And just making them a little more chic. Chic! So we actually found this pack of magnetic alphabet letters at Toys R Us, but I believe Walmart might carry them in the States. And obviously like anywhere online because the internet is infinity. Your best friend. So pretty much what we did was we took all these letters, laid them out outside, and just gave them a nice coat of bright gold spray paint. And they just look awesome. They do. They look expensive now and they look awesome. And they'll look awesome wherever you place them. The last thing that we made, this is not really decoration, but it's the best locker insert thing that you could have, and I totally wish I had this in high school because I would have used it so much. Yes. But what we did is we made kind of like a high school locker emergency kit, and we decorated ours to be kind of like vintagey looking. So what we did was we got this box from Value Village. We painted the whole thing white, and we spray painted the inside a bright color just to make it a little bit more fun. And then we painted on a cross by just using some tape to mask out a cross stencil, and then we colored it in gold. Because we thought red was a little too obvious, but hey, if that's your thing, go for it. Any color you want, really. Emergency! And then our next step was once it was dry, we actually took some sandpaper and just kind of sanded off the metal portion, so it kind of made it really rustic looking. It looks old that way. So some of the things that we decided to put in our emergency kit were things like Advil, perfume, some bobby pins, nail file, lip balm, mints, because you never know when you're gonna need any of those things. You won't know, but now you have them. So many times in high school, I ran out of like every one of those things and was like, I hope you guys enjoyed these DIY locker decoration tips and that you try them.
Coming up next, Seema talks about internet safety in a heart-to-heart. Stay tuned.
Hey guys, it's Seema from Teen Critic. Today on my Heart to Heart, I'm going to be talking to you guys about internet safety. You might have heard about it from your parents or your teachers, and if not, well, you're in luck because I'm going to talk to you about it. So, internet safety is basically how you protect yourself online. You're using the internet, all your friends are using the internet, I can guarantee it. Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, all those social media sites, those are all the internet, and they can pose some serious risks, so you need to know how to protect yourself. So that's what I'm gonna talk to you guys about, and that's what internet safety is. So there are lots of people online, and you don't know who they are. They could be random people from anywhere in the world that have really bad intentions. There are really good people that you can meet on the internet. I have met some really nice people on the internet, and I've met some really not so nice people on the internet. So you never really know what you're gonna get. So you kind of have to test the waters and figure out how you can tell who's a good person and who's a bad person. And sometimes the bad people come off as really good people. So you need to kind of develop like a sense. But there's a lot of tips and tricks that you can get from like before you get that sense. So I'm going to give you some advice on that. So just for your own safety, never give out your own personal information. Don't give out your address, your town, even like your state. It's best to just stay with your country. It's a lot safer that way. Don't give out your phone number. People can harass you over the phone. Same with emails. If you're like on Twitter, you don't want to give out like your Facebook account and your Instagram account, or if you're on Instagram, you don't want to give out your Facebook and Twitter. So it's like kind of a circle where you want to like keep the site that you're on, the site that you're on. So you want to kind of keep everything separate. Don't like upload pictures of yourself, pictures of your friends, pictures of your house. Bad idea, because people can track you down with those. If you're using your cell phone, make sure like location is disabled, otherwise people can look at like where you are and they can like find you from that. So just be very careful. Always set your privacy to like the highest settings. Like on Facebook, set it so like only your friends can see your posts, and then make sure that you only accept for friendship people who you actually know. And just stuff like that, you know. On Twitter, if you have like a lot of random followers or something like that where you can't like verify who can see your content, don't post anything that will let someone, like let a stranger find you, because then they will. You know, you don't know if they're gonna find you or not. So then if you happen to find someone and you start talking to them, maybe they seem like really nice and you kind of start to consider them a friend, you might want to verify that they're a real person before you start any sort of like relationship with them. You want to like know that they're like a real person that's not going to hurt you. And one of the best ways to do that is to ask them to take a picture of themselves and hold up a piece of paper in the picture and write with their own handwriting on it, something like their name, and then have them doing something like they could either be doing like a hand signal, like you could have them like doing peace or something, or you could have them like crumple up the paper and then just fold it out again. That way, like you can tell better if it's photoshopped or not, cause all the angles and stuff. And so that's like a really good way. You can ask them for like 3 pictures like that from different angles, and that's like the best way to ensure that they're like a real person. And then in turn, of course, offer them one of those for them. Just to be fair, whether they care if you're like real or not, which hopefully they do. If you've gotten those pictures and, you know, you can tell they're real people, then it's always a good idea, you know, if they're your friends and you've been talking for a while, you can have like video chats, Skype, FaceTime, those are really common, and that's when you can really be like, okay, this person's real, I have their voice, I have whatever. Snapchatting them's also a good way, you know, you get to see them a lot. Stuff like that. It's just really good to be able to tell they're a real person. And once you've done a lot of that, especially if you've been doing like a lot, you'll definitely be able to know that they're a real person, and that's like really good. Something that you might have heard about, probably from your parents or from your teachers, is called camming or nudes or something like that. It's when you go on webcam, so camming is when you go on webcam and you do something sexual, or you get undressed, or anything like that for someone else. And sending nudes is when you take nude pictures of yourself and send them to someone else. You probably have friends that have done this, but it's not a good idea. If you're under the age of 18, it's considered child pornography and is very illegal, and you can get in serious legal trouble for it. You could even be put on the sex offenders list, and that is not something you want. So that's a really bad idea. If you're camming or sending nudes, the people on the other end could be saving them, they could be showing them to their friends, they could be posting them online. People are going to see them, and that's a bad idea because you don't want other people seeing your nudes and you don't want them going around. People will find out, and it's really dangerous to have stuff like that online. It can affect you for the whole rest of your life. There are a lot of people that like you'll read about online, or maybe you've heard of them, that have gotten like depression or anxiety or even killed themselves because of something really bad that happened through like sending pictures. Along the same lines, don't sext. It's just not a good idea. People will screenshot it or they'll tell about it to their friends. It won't be as serious as like sending nudes, but it's not going to be good for you. No matter how much fun you're having in the moment, when there are rumors going around and everyone looks at you weirdly, you're going to regret it. So that's really not a good idea. So basically, you just want to be careful who you're talking to. Don't treat anyone differently. Don't bully people online. It's no excuse just because you're online. Just be yourself, but don't be too much yourself, if that makes any sense. So, yeah, that's about it. Just be careful online and have fun. Bye, guys!